If they were civilians and they had gone through all these phases, all this critical thinking, they would have seen that declaring a curfew during the day isn't what makes sense.
Hello viewers, it's your girl Whimsical Amy, and today is the 20th of October, the 4-year anniversary of the EndSARS protest that took place 20th of October 2020. Now I know a lot of you know who this handsome gentleman is, but for those of you who don't know, this is Mr. Dotun Oladipo, the managing editor of Eagle Online, the Eagle himself.
Thank you so much for having me on your program. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So I know recently there has been a lot of allegations concerning, in fact, there's always been allegations and rumors about the EndSARS protest and all that. But the current one is the fact that someone allegedly said that Sarah Ibrahim and SAN Falana had received a bribe of 100 million naira. So, sir, what do you think that's even probable in this EndSARS issue?
Well, nothing is impossible. Even till now, some of us still believe, albeit erroneously, that there's still so much money in the country that you can afford to deploy some into bribing people to keep quiet, even in the face of things going wrong. But you see, when you are in a situation like we had with the EndSARS, and where you had all state governments setting up panels, some of the panels awarding money to victims, you'll hear all sorts. When names were mentioned and figures were being bandied around, some of us who are knowledgeable in these things and had people we could call to make inquiries, we knew certain misconceptions arose as a result of the fact that people do not have information. The right and adequate ones at that.
Can you clear up some of those misconceptions?
Well, for instance, the panel said in Lagos State in particular that compensation should be paid to some victims. Those victims were identified, isolated, and were listed for payment. At the point of payment, one of the things that filtered out and which came eventually online was the fact that cash was paid. So some people who said they were short, not because a lot of people are always, when you talk about EndSARS, people are always focusing on what happened at Lekki Toll Gate. Some were shot outside of that place. Some were injured and they were to be paid. Some of them said they couldn't come to the point of payment. I don't want to mention names because all these are just things there on the social media. And some people said, okay, so person would trust her, now a female, without mentioning name. Please pick up this money for us. Because it is cash, not that it was transferred. And in the process of pick this money up for us, some people got agitated. They felt the person who picked up the money had perhaps taken off with their money, and then they went online and started doing a lot of blabbing. And so it became what the Yorubas would call nyokonyon. That is, everything scattered and nobody can find the head or tail. So when you have a situation like that, once it involves money, you hear a lot of stories, no doubt about that. And when all of these Femi Falana, a senior advocate of Nigeria, 200 million and kept quiet, sometimes you wonder where we hear some of these stories. I'm not saying anybody is beyond certain slips, but when you are talking of somebody who has been consistent in fighting for our human rights, you can't take it away from Femi Falana. If he needs money, I'm sure he knows that he won't get money from these human rights cases. There are other cases that will bring him money. I'm not saying people did not explore or exploit that EndSARS protest to make money. Some people use it to raise funds, just like the one we had of recent, the Endonga protest. Some people used it to make money. Indeed, a lot of money. But where do you place Femi Falana, who has been doing pro bono cases for people who had rights issues? I'm not defending him in any, but for you to say a panel awarded 20 million to a certain set of people and Femi Falana has collected 100 million. Yes, according to information available, the Lagos State government has indeed spent close to 500 million on the EndSARS issue. Not just payment of compensation, hospital bills, repairs of police stations, damaged things, treatment of police officers who are injured, treatment of civilians, soldiers, all of those. It's like I said at that point, it was an error that I knew taxpayers will pay for. Not even those who went on the streets fighting. Imagine the 57 buses that were burnt. Just 1 point. So more were burnt. Who replaced it? Taxpayers. And people will always make it look like government is an individual. Government is not an individual. It's a collective. So when you say, I want to burn this because it belongs to government, then you are burning yourself. So that's what we have paid for. I'm sure if we go back and we check the records and take Lagos State government would have spent nothing less than 2 billion to take care of. What are we even saying? 57 buses. How do we replace 57 buses with 2 billion in this economy? So we'll be looking at 4, 5 billion, 10 billion when we are talking about what the state government. But in terms of compensation to victims, yes, it's been done, and we are watching.
Okay, still on this monetary compensation, do you think it's the only viable cause or viable option that they could have given, especially for the EndSARS victims?
There will be nothing else to give. Reason is this: the day after the so-called shootout in Lekki at the toll gate, the governor went round. He did not only see those who are fleeing from Lekki who were injured, he saw others who have been injured in other locations. So when you have the government having taken care of the hospital bills of everybody, then what else can we do other than to pay monetary compensations? Yes, some can be employed, but then you still ask yourself, what's the employability status? Can they fit into any kind of thing other than the normal, let's say, artisan jobs and all? Who are those people that are qualified to work in government establishment, for instance, if you are talking of employment for them? What are the, those are the things that you now need to begin to look at. It's not just about, but in this case, what these people need, especially if you read the latest on this, the one I told you about, where somebody was collecting money for them. You know that these guys want money. What they wanted was money. You could see from some of them who sent messages that were made public by one of the ladies involved that they wanted money, cash. So it's like, for me, that's perhaps, and that's the wisdom in what this panel did by saying pay monetary compensation.
So on the reform of the on the reform of SARS, we know that they were scraped out and replaced by SWAT. The SWAT thing, that's the Special Weapons and Tactics. How effective do you think that has been? Personally, I've not even seen them on the road or anything, so I don't even know if they are still in existence, but we have reports that they were replaced.
Whichever way you look at it, the police force is still one unit. What you create out of it are just special squads. There are only two broad system we can see within the police. That's the regular policemen and the mobile policemen. So beyond that, what we just see are just these special squads, which can be established and disbanded at any time. So when we spoke about SARS, it was a good thing people came out and protested. But my position since then, which made me not to really push like some others were pushing, that this SWAT should become visible and all the rest, is the fact that the first thing that we need is a complete reorientation of the police force. Complete. Because whether you change the name or you change the uniform, you are still dealing with the same set of people who have no respect for human rights. But unfortunately, it is not even all of them. When you meet some policemen, you feel like you want to join the police force. And then you meet some, you feel like you want to kill every policeman. You know, so it is not so much in the name, because like it was said at that time, when they were saying they should take everybody who is in SARS, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, to go and undergo a psychological check, to undergo mental check, I said it is the whole of the police force that should undergo that. Because the moment you handle arm and you deal with the public, there must be some level of patience you are going to have. It must be outstanding. There have been videos we have seen after EndSARS where we even saw one where a woman was pushing a police officer and the man was just running away from her, was charging at him. That's a policeman. And there are some you don't even need to say anything before they charge at you and start shooting. So it's for me, whether you call it SARS, whether you call it SWAT, whether you call it Mopol or the regular police, what we need is a force that we can be proud of. And I've also spoken about this before. Go and check our records. When we go on UN peace missions, or even our fighting missions, and you have a policeman involved, embedded even in within the military, go and check the records. We are always number one. Policemen from Nigeria. We always come top in terms of rating when we go on so many missions. So the question you ask yourself is, why is it happening in Nigeria? Why will people in other lands praise our policemen? Are those ones that we took out, are they special breed? Did we bring them from heaven? Did we just, take them from somewhere and send them out? No. It's because of this mentality that we have here. Once I hold a gun, I can do an undo. Until our people begin to change that orientation, we are going to continually get into trouble, believing that once we change the name of a squad or we replace those who are in that squad, we are good to go. No, it's not.
Okay, still on the replacement, we know that they've been scrapped out. So there are a lot of rumors that the people that were scrapped out, the officers of the SARS, were then embedded in the SWAT or put in the police stations.
Whichever way you look at it, they are still there within the system. It was only a creation that they did. Can you select 20 good men, 20 fighting men, and put them under SARS? Let me give you an example, which I'm not also very happy about. We had a man, and we still have him anyway, though he's on trial now, that we call Abba Kyari. When he was in Lagos State, he was the head of SARS at some point, before he was deployed to the IRT. He achieved a lot with that squad. I remember at some point, when I used to stay close to the NYSC camp in Lagos, they had a huge fight with armed robbers overnight, somewhere at Yanopaja in Lagos State. And all we were hearing from the throughout the night was and they succeeded in dismantling those guys. That's what we say about SARS. It is not the SARS that will take you, arrest somebody, force the person into a vehicle, and force him to transfer money. We've also heard about SARS in Kogi State, where they took 6 traders who had money with them. The moment they knew there was money in their bus, they put them back in that bus. They took the money away from them, they killed them and they burnt them. So you can see the difference. There is a huge difference. It's a matter of who you are dealing with. Am I dealing with a thief who joined the police force in order to legitimize his stealing? Or am I dealing with somebody who has a right orientation about what he wants to do in the police force? I have so many friends in the force. I'm proud of a lot of them. One of them is the Force Public Relations Officer, You need to see him when he's dressed up. You feel like, I want to wear this uniform. The man who is head of, he is the spokesman of the Lagos State Police Command, is also one, Benjamin Udein. You see policemen like that and you just fall in love. The spokesperson of Ogun State Police Command, she's a superintendent of police. When you see her dressed, even as a woman, I'm sure you love her. The way she speaks. And we have people who also at the top like that, who are, for instance, like DIG, Emikamba. You like him because it's just, you can see Emmanuel is talking with passion for the job. Not those who are on the road who are just looking for Udia. Look at what happened here in Lagos. Was it SARS that did it? Regular policemen who arrested youth corps members and took them and collected both dollar and naira from them, threatening to kill them if they didn't pay. Those guys are in detention now. They are undergoing a trial. So a lot of times we focus on the name. It is not the name. Just like I've heard people argue that if we change our name from Nigeria, things will get better. I don't see the sense in some of these things. These things don't add up. We just need to be able to sit down and understand that. See, the big question, what's in a name? A name is something by which you are identified, but it does not decide your character. The person behind the name is the one that decides that character. I'm Samson. We've had a Samson that Delilah killed. But Delilah has not killed me till now. So what's in the name? If somebody now says, because you are Samson, Delilah will kill you, would I allow Delilah to kill me? That's the big question. So for me, it is about having a police force that is vibrant and which you can be proud of. So we need to understand some of these things that people usually argue about and say, this is the only way out. Change everybody in the police. And I say, where are you going to get the sense to put in the police?
True. So in recent years, as since the EndSARS protests, do you think the public trust, how have you seen this protest, especially the nastiness that went down in EndSARS? How has that affected the trust in Lagosians towards the Lagos State government or even the federal government at large?
Well, I think it depends on who is at the end of affairs and how the person can handle it. Like I said earlier, a lot of us don't even have enough information to be able to understand that some of these things go awry, not because the man at the top committed a blunder. And I can share a little with you as an insider.
Please.
What happened at Lekki Toll Gate? Some people have said, cut the neck of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. Do this, do that, do that. But I can tell you that whatever happened that day, we have traced to the doorsteps of the commanders of the security forces in Lagos. If you recollect, a curfew was declared at about 12 o'clock, and they gave Lagosians at that time that there was difficulty moving up to 2 p.m. to move and get off the road. Those are part of the lessons that have been learned and which we should keep talking about for people to imbibe. What happened from what we learned? The governor was in a security meeting with the commanders of the security forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, Police, and all the rest. And it was decided at that point when the protest was getting too hot that the best thing was to keep Lagosians indoors. From what we learned, while the governor said, see, let's declare this curfew beginning from tomorrow morning, the commanders insisted that it must be immediate. And that was where the whole thing went wrong. Because in a city like Lagos, especially one that was almost on its knee because of that protest, it didn't make sense for you to declare any protest. Any curfew. Right? Immediate curfew. It didn't make any sense. At that time, if you recollect, people were traveling from the island to the mainland, spending 6-8 hours because traffic was crawling because of protesters. So how do you now intend to get those people off the streets in 2 or 4 hours? Practically impossible. Because when some of us had this declaration of curfew, it was like, are you talking about 2 a.m. or 2 p.m.? Because when I saw that statement, I quickly reached out and asked, is there an error in this statement? Did you mean to write 2 a.m. or 2 p.m.? And they said it was 2 p.m. Then some of us needed to get behind whose decision it was to make it a curfew during the day. Because if some level of civility, I'm sorry to use that language, had been applied by those commanders, they would have known that militarizing that protest at that point was not what makes sense. Or if I was to be in charge, and which I was told was the position of the governor, everybody leaves Lekki now to go home at night at about 12:01. You would have announced your curfew at 3 a.m. and used every available medium to announce it. On social media, the regular newspaper, you use it. Nobody should come out of their houses in the morning. That would have kept a lot of people back home. And then you announce this, people are caught on the road, and then all this scramble began. That was why it was more like you had more victims outside of that Lekki than even what you had in Lekki at the toll gates. Because people were struggling, hurrying, fighting to get home because of the curfew. Which also, unfortunately, every zombie security operative on the road wanted to implement in order to extort people. So that was what went wrong. And we need to learn some of these things so that we don't get to a point where we repeat it again. So, for me, the person in charge, whether you are going to like him or not, will also now depend on how some of these things are handled. But that was what went wrong. And how has the Lagos State government, for instance, been able to handle it? Like I said, the last that we had was that the government has spent about 20 million taking care of issues that arose from that protest, including compensation to victims. But like I said, I'm sure we'll be looking at about 4-5 billion in terms of payment for rebuilding police stations, replacing buses, damage, infrastructure, and all the rest. But how has it panned out now? Federal government also set up its own committee, ordered states to set it up. And here we are, there is some calm. In Lagos State, we have seen a lot of what I'll call positives, especially this year with the crumbling of the Naira and hiking for oil price. We've had Onje Eko and this 25% off. So you must always rebound when there is a problem. That's huge lesson in leadership. So, and people are beginning to hail the governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who was seen as part of that problem of EndSARS, but which a lot of people did not know, that he advised against declaring that curfew, but was prevailed upon by the commanders to say, this is what we need. That's their own war tactics. Yeah, because they are men of war. They are not civilians. If they were civilians and they had gone through all these phases, all this critical thinking, they would have seen that declaring a curfew during the day isn't what makes sense.
So guys, you've heard that. That was a very detailed analysis of what really went down. And I'm actually for one glad to hear your point of view. He answered a lot of questions for me. And I hope he did the same for you. So if you have more questions, and I know we all do, if you have more questions on this EndSARS, please let us know in the comments. And for those who have lost so many people during the EndSARS, our hearts from Eagle Online goes out to you.
Yeah.
We feel so bad for you. And we pray that you continue to have more strength in this coming day.
Amen. Amen.
So guys, like, subscribe, share. Let's hear your comments. Let's hear your opinions. Until next time, I'm your girl, Wenzuko Amy, and our managing editor,
Dr. Oladipo. Thank you so much for having me. Bye.